Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley. I'm back with my 20th Q&A video, and here you can see gourmet lump charcoal. Yes, I'm going to be doing a barbecue during this video. No, in fact, I'm not going to be doing that, but I am going to be taking this charcoal that was intended for barbecuing and try using it as a drawing tool. The idea is to use the very worst art supplies imaginable. They aren't even art supplies. This is supposed to be just for grilling up a burger or something. And this piece of paper here, it is indeed the other side of a shopping bag. Let's see if Mark Crowley can do a decent drawing with really terrible art supplies. I want to begin, though, by answering a sort of pre-question question that came to me from Captain Damp. What do you mean by tired radish? Coincidence or subliminal messaging? The question refers to the hidden message in my video earlier this week, Tsukareta Daikon. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Some of you may have not seen this video from when I went to Japan in the summer. Went to this vending machine and got this very strange little keychain here called the, oops, going out of focus, Tsukareta Daikon. And that's what that was a reference to. I'll go ahead and put in a little annotation link and also in my info box if you want to go check out that video and see what is this Tsukareta Daikon thing about. You can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go ahead and refocus the camera, and we're going to get into drawing the picture and answering some questions. Alright, well, I'm going to begin working on this drawing. I decided to draw a picture of Toothless from the animated film How to Train Your Dragon. So pulling out the piece of charcoal here, going to try to get some basic guidelines in here. I want to sort of fill as much of this space as possible, though I do need to leave space for his ears. So let's try to get just the right size and shape going on here. And as I work on this drawing, I will also want to answer some questions from you. I got 10 long-form questions, as I call them, and then I'm going to have a lightning round at the end. But let's get into this first question. Question number 1 from Knox Fatty MV. Are you a self-taught artist or a taught one? Now, I think any artist is really a combination of both of those things. I suppose you can find some people who are truly 100% self-taught. They had no teacher of any kind. I certainly can't make that claim. I had the usual assortment of elementary school teachers and so forth. And later on I'll have a question that talks about classes that I actually took. But I would like to say that really, if I had to put it in percentage terms, how much of what I know today came from teachers versus came from teaching myself. Oh boy, that's a tricky one. Let's be generous and say 50-50, basically. Because the things that you learn when you're young really do, you build everything on top of that. So, you know, I would say like basically, I remember in college, my early years of college, they had a class that taught me about learning to draw what you see, learning how to accurately reproduce exactly what you see as close to the real thing as possible. That's a huge skill. Everything's kind of built on, you know, from a certain point of view, almost everything I do is built upon some aspect of that skill. And so, yeah, I don't know if you can even put it in percentage terms, but certainly a lot of what I use today was indeed self-taught. So, yeah, kind of a boring answer, I suppose, but some combination of the two. Let's see if we can get on to question number 2. Rayavenk. What are the most common mistakes that are the easiest to fix that you see from beginners? I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see an awful lot of, oh boy, this is an unsteady surface here. I cannot work under these conditions. The most common mistake I see is making the lines too dark, and then you need to erase later on. And then, of course, the lines are so dark that it's hard to erase, and it starts smudging and smearing and tearing up the page. And all of that can be avoided if you start with smaller, lighter lines, I should say, at the outset. So I would certainly consider that one of the big main mistakes that I see in younger artists. The other one is really not so much a drawing mistake, but a sort of conceptual mistake, and that is that that there's something wrong with looking at reference when you're learning to draw something, or even after you've learned to draw that thing. I've said this before, but I feel like I just need to repeat it. There is nothing wrong with needing to look at real life or photographs of something. It's not about memorizing and being able to draw everything without looking at anything. It's not cheating to look at stuff. I mean, all of these great master artists throughout history, Da Vinci, Rembrandt, and all of these guys looked at stuff, right? They drew, they painted from models. They looked at themselves in the mirror. Don't feel like you can't do that. It's part of the process. And so if you can't draw a horse without looking at a photo of a horse, join the club. I can't either, right? I mean, if I wanted to draw a horse, I would definitely look at a photo of a horse, or go out to a nearby field to try to find a horse. Of course, they move around a lot, so there is the advantage of the camera, photograph over real life. But of course, the tradition really is to draw from real life. Anyway, I've talked about that a million times, but those are the two big things. Drawing too dark to begin with, and failing to use reference, failing to look at the actual thing that you're trying to draw prior to trying to draw it yourself. Anyway, let's move on to the next question, and that is number 3. Sydney Brewster. Is it difficult to publish a manga-influenced comic in the United States? Well, I would say, first of all, it's difficult to publish anything in the United States or anywhere, probably. It's never easy to get published. You're competing against lots of different other people who want to get published, and it's hard to get the attention of a publisher, etc., etc. I have a whole other video where I talked about my path to getting published. Maybe I'll also get that, a link in the info box. By the way, I want to apologize if you hear any extraneous noise. I'm doing this in the basement this time, and the furnace may kick on. You may hear water running through pipes. We're having an adventure with this video, folks. But anyway, what was the question? Oh yeah, is it easy to get published or hard to get published? Definitely very hard. And in terms of specifically manga-oriented, I think you are limiting yourself to a certain manga-buying audience, and some publishers may be a little squeamish about that. They want to appeal to the public at large. But I would say don't worry about that too much. If your story is really strong, if you have a really dynamite concept, I don't think they're going to worry too much. Oh, here comes the furnace kicking on. If you can't hear this stuff on the video, then I'm just making a fool out of myself. But there you go. Anyway, if you've got a really great story, if your skills are fantastic, I don't think the fact that you work in a manga style is going to stop you from getting published. But the thing that I would emphasize is that a lot of young people don't realize the degree to which it's about your concept, your story concept, your characters, your writing. That's really actually more important than the drawing. You need a really amazing story. Anyway, that's a whole can of worms to get into that topic of how do you get published. But like I said, I'm going to put a link in the info box to this other video where I talked about how I got published and sort of offer my best advice in that regard. A perennial question. Can never answer it too many times. Let's go on to another question here. Number 4 from Silvers Raleigh. My comments never make it to the actual video, but maybe this time. Maybe. What age is good enough to become professional? That's an interesting one about the age that you have to be considered professional. Every once in a while we hear these stories about kids who are 13 years old and they get a publishing deal and they become famous authors. That is certainly very unusual. You have to be amazingly good at writing, to say nothing of drawing if you're trying to get into comics, to get published in your teens. I'd say for most people, 18, 19, 20 is maybe how old they're going to have to be before they get their first big break. In my case, and I'm sort of a late starter, I didn't even get published really until I was 29, but that was kind of a personal choice. I was off teaching English in Taiwan and Japan, was not really trying to get published for quite a number of years after I finished college. So yeah, It's not so much about age, really. It's again, it's about the quality of your work. But generally speaking, most people need to reach a certain age before they hit their stride artistically, or indeed in terms of writing and so forth. So, nice question there. Let's move on to the next one. Number 5, Andrew the Lady 12. I have a hard time doing dialogue when I'm working on my practice manga. Anyway, do you have any tips for making the talking flow and all that jazz? I love that question. We got to make the talking flow and all that jazz. Yes, dialogue is one of my favorite aspects of writing. I love to work on the dialogue. It is, of course, tricky to explain the process of writing dialogue. I've always figured maybe I should try to make a video that gives some information about that. But it's not a very visual thing, right? For me to talk about writing during a whole video, I don't think anyone would want to watch that, but who knows, maybe I can try one. But anyway, I thought I'd talk a little bit about creating dialogue, how that works. Let's imagine you're writing a scene in which there are 2 characters trapped inside a house. It's during the zombie apocalypse or whatever, and they don't, they're getting hungry because they're running out of food. And the one character says, we got to leave the house to go out and look for food. And so you write, the other character responds to that and says, "Are you crazy? Going outside right now would be crazy." Okay, well, I think you can see where I'm going with this. You've repeated the word crazy, and it's not working as dialogue. So you have to go back and change the word crazy to something else. Maybe you say, "Are you out of your mind? Going out right now would be crazy." So that's a little bit better, but it's still kind of awkward. And so you would probably go back and cross it out again and change it to something else. Have you lost your mind? If we go out right now, we'll be dead inside of 10 minutes. Okay, so, little by little, you're refining that line. And I suppose just the big thing is understand that you're not going to get your best line on the very first go. You need to be prepared to self-edit. Go back, keep changing things, keep trying different things. And generally, it's your 3rd or 4th version of the line that really flows nicely. So, I hope that was useful. I don't know if I talked about how I'm drawing Toothless here. I decided to draw Toothless because he is, largely a single color, largely the color black, which is, of course, what the charcoal is, and so I thought that might be make Toothless a good subject for this video. I need to keep moving though, because I think I'll run out of time. I'll be done with all the questions before I've even finished my drawing. So let's see here. What is the next question? Number 6, Ingri. If Miki Falls and or Brody Ghost were to be made into a movie series, would you prefer it to be live action or anime? And the answer to that is yes! Either of them. I'm not going to get picky. Are you kidding? Someone wants to make a movie based on one of my manga or comic books, I would be delighted, and either way they want to do it, I'm going to be happy. I got to imagine that trying to do Brody's Ghost as live action would be challenging just because it's in this sort of dystopian, futuristic environment, and so you need the special effects and sort of the digital effects to pull that off. Miki Falls would be more easily done as live action, just because it just takes place in present day Japan. Basically, it doesn't require so much in terms of special effects. But yeah, animated version of either of them, I would love to see. It would just be a lot of fun. Some of you may know that I had Miki Falls was optioned for development by Brad Pitt. His production company, Plan B, paid for the rights to turn Miki Falls into a movie. They were going to do it. They were going to make it live action. But unfortunately, it just never went past the planning stage, and that is true of an awful lot of books that get optioned. They buy the rights, and then people sort of within the company or within the industry make the argument for, hey, we should turn this into a real film. And for whatever reason, the higher-ups, those cigar-chomping fat cats at the top of the entertainment world, they give it the thumbs down, and they give something else the thumbs up. And so that's why Miki Falls never did quite make it into production as a film, but you never know. I never give up hope. It would be awesome one day to be walking down that red carpet and see the animated or live action version of any one of my films. I gotta say, trying to draw with barbecue charcoal is challenging. You know, my idea was to show that you don't need to buy expensive, fancy art supplies. You can draw with anything. You know, the truth is somewhere between the two extremes. Yes, you do need decent art supplies. You don't want to try to draw with charcoal, even though from the dawn of time, cavemen have drawn with charcoal. It surprisingly works as a drawing tool. But I just, you know, I hate this idea of people thinking, oh, I got to go out and spend a lot of money for art supplies. That's the only way to be a good artist. I thought this little challenge here would show, guys, it is not about the art supplies. It is about the years of practice that allow you to make a good drawing. Let's move on now to question number 7 from Darren Brown. Can you tell us the level you recommend we should be at if we get Mastering Manga 1 or 2, like beginner versus advanced? And well, thank you so much for asking about those books. As you would guess from the name, Mastering Manga 1 and 2, the first one is sort of presented as basic. The second one, a little more advanced, but I don't know if it's quite as simple as that. I would say the first one focuses a bit more on faces, shows you how to draw a lot of different faces, including children, you know, overweight, there's one on elderly characters, whereas the second one moves past that and starts to get into actually making full comic book pages, laying them out, figuring out what goes in each panel. All of that stuff is covered in much more detail in Mastering Manga 2. But, you know, Mastering Manga 1 has this whole big section on perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective. That's crucial if you want to draw backgrounds of any kind. So, not surprisingly, as the guy who made the books, I'm going to advise you to get both if you can. Otherwise, you know, use that as a guide. If you can only get one, think about what is more important to you. Do you want to have knowledge of drawing faces mostly, or do you want knowledge of laying out pages? And you would get the first or the second book accordingly, respectively, whateverly, in terms of making your decision on that. Let us move on now to question number 8 from Sophie Fox. Did you take any art classes when you were a kid? If so, what were they? I did indeed take classes when I was a kid. One that sticks in my mind was going to the Detroit Institute of Arts. For years, I used to go there on Saturdays. We would draw from the Greek sculptures and paint oil paintings, and we would even go into the modern art section and do drawings in there. And so that was a lot of fun. I do remember that I was kind of stubborn as a student, and instead of drawing guidelines, I would just look at one tiny section of the painting or whatever, start copying there, and then work out, you know, work my way out little by little towards the rest of the drawing. And my teachers would always say, no, you should do some rough guidelines first so you don't run out of space on the page or whatever. And I was stubborn, and I wouldn't listen to them. And now, of course, I know that they are right. To a large extent, you should put some rough guidelines down first, so that you do get, you know, the whole drawing to fit just in right. But I was a stubborn little dude, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it my way, man. So, yeah, that's one of my little memories. But otherwise, I didn't have, like, special... A lot of people think that I went to art college or something. I did not. I went to a liberal arts college that was not famous for its art program. So don't feel like you need to go to a big, expensive art school. Let's move on to the next question, and it must be question number 9. Ultra Windy Wind. I love that name. Ultra Windy Wind asks, Mark, is mechanical pencil as good as normal wooden pencil? And I would say probably. I don't use mechanical pencils so much, so I can't answer this question so thoroughly. But it seems to me that you know, any tool that feels comfortable to you is the one to use. I always wonder with a mechanical pencil if you can, you know, when you sort of tilt the pencil down and try to have the lead striking the page at an angle to get sort of a thicker line. Is that possible with a mechanical pencil? Because it seems like it's like eternally sharp. And a lot of times you're not going for with a wooden pencil, you're not using the sharp point of it, you're trying to use the side of it to get shading done. So let me know, those of you who use mechanical pencils, is it possible to do that sort of side style and get a big, thick, wide line for toning with a mechanical pencil? I have not really tried that much. I'm just sort of hooked on the old-fashioned wooden pencil. That's my way, man. And we must be at question number 10 already from Luke's Shorts. Interesting name, Luke's Shorts. My final question, why don't you talk about your wife and kids that much? Or even your day-to-day life in general. It is true, you know, those of you who've seen my earliest video, my very first one or two videos, I did show my then infant daughter in the video, and since then I haven't really talked about my family so much. I guess I've just decided, especially as my son gets older, I don't want his life to be impacted too much by my video stuff. You know, kids at school or whatever saying, hey man, I saw you in your dad's video or whatever. So I have decided to sort of lay off of that and not get my family too much involved, at least in terms of showing them or talking about them a lot in my videos. But I could talk more about my day-to-day life, my life in general. Let me know, would you like me to do that? Should I do videos that are a little more like vlog-type videos and just sort of talk about things that are not necessarily related to drawing? I always assume people want to see me draw, and they want to hear me talk about things that are related to drawing, but maybe there are people who are interested in just hearing me talk about anything, like the movie I saw the other day or whatever. Actually, more on that later because someone asked about movies. In the lightning round. Speaking of the lightning round, I think that's where we are right now, indeed. Let's go ahead and move on into the lightning round. I got my paper here, my lightning round questions. And the question number 1 from Julia Willett. What is your favorite Disney movie? Boy, it's a tough one. You know, if you're talking about animated films, I liked Aladdin back in the 90s. I think I'm going to say Tangled for the more recent ones. That's a darn good movie. It's a lightning round. I got to keep moving. Number 2, Happy Starshine 17. Do you have an iPhone and can we see it? No, I do not have an iPhone, so you can't see it. But I have an iPod Touch. I don't have it with me right now. It looks just like anyone else's. Why would you want to see it? Anyway, that has allowed me to get on Instagram, finally. Next question. Timai A7. How do you like your eggs? Well, I have to watch my cholesterol, so for me it's an egg white omelet, folks. All the veggies, light on the cheese. Let's go on to number 5. Grace Elizabeth, how many fingers am I holding up? It's a trick question. You're not holding any fingers up. Yeah, I figured out what you were doing to me there, Grace. Number 6, this one from Ryan Blackmore. Kore o yomu koto dekiru ka? Yomeru yo? Doshite kakeru no? Ryan Blackmore, why are you able to write in Japanese? Your name doesn't sound like you're a Japanese guy, Ryan Blackmore. Very impressive. Most impressive. Got to keep moving. Number 7. Mihai Aristasanu. I can't pronounce this last name. I'm so sorry. What do you think about cosplaying? I think it's cool. I can't do it myself. I'm an old dude. I look creepy and goofy, but I love that people do cosplaying at conventions. I think it has made convention going way more interesting than it used to be. That's just my personal opinion. Moving on. From Hannah Platt. Have you noticed that your last name sounds like acrylic? Well, I've noticed now, thanks to you, and I will never get it out of my mind from this day forth. Thanks a lot. Moving on to number 9. Margaret T.S. Greek or Italian food? Ooh, that's a tough one. I do like a Greek salad, but I'm going to have to say Italian food. Especially a thin crust pizza. Oh yeah, baby. I like the margarita. Right? Just give me some mozzarella, basil, fresh tomato. Cannot beat that. You cannot beat that. Finally, number 10. Kimberly Vargas. Would you travel to Antarctica for a week if they paid you more than $1 million? Sure, man. Give me the $1 million. The only thing is, like, are you talking about they're going to airdrop me into the middle of Antarctica with nothing but a pup tent and a can of pork and beans? I would be dead within a couple hours, so no, I don't think I would go for the $1 million on that one. And that brings us all the way to the end of this video, pretty much, with just time for one last thing. I've decided to include what I call a random exchange. It is a question that was answered not by me, but by someone else who happened to see the question, and I thought this was kind of funny. And the question from Cat Woods: when 2 cats on a jet ski passed by 3 dogs on a motorbike, what instrument was played? And UTV came along and said, drums. I don't know why. That just amused the heck out of me. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video of me valiantly attempting to draw Toothless with nothing more than a piece of charcoal on a shopping bag. I really do enjoy making these videos. I'll have to do them more often. I think April was the last time I did a Q&A video. We'll try to get the next one in here much sooner than this one. I know a lot of people were waiting for it. But let's go ahead and lay down this piece of charcoal. Might be the last time I ever say that in a video. I hope you enjoyed watching this one. I really enjoyed making it for you. And I'll be back with another one real soon.